Welcome back to Women's Wealth, The Middle Way, the show that answers your questions about work, money, and family. My name is Susan McGlory Michael, and I am the CEO and founder of Glen Eagle, a wealth management firm in New Jersey.
My name is Carol Ann Fernandez, and I'm the COO of Glen Eagle. And I'm really excited to have our guest today, Katie Cooper, an occupational therapist and board-certified health and wellness coach who helps working moms recognize and overcome burnout. As a mom and healthcare worker who battled burnout during the pandemic, Katie uses humor and science to help women take back control. Welcome, Katie.
Thanks for having me.
As a working mom myself, I'm very interested in this topic. So I guess with that, can you just tell us about your personal journey with burnout and what led you even to become a health coach?
I have been in the healthcare industry for 17 years as an occupational therapist, and during the pandemic, which we all remember, a very stressful time, I was working in direct patient care in a senior living community. I was also in the leadership team for the company, and I just remember feeling so overwhelmed with the uncertainty of what we were dealing with. I also had two young children at home at the time. My youngest had just turned 1 and my oldest was about 4.5. Just managing young children and working and trying to figure out what we were going to do to keep everybody healthy was very stressful and overwhelming. And I got to a place where I just felt like I couldn't do any of my roles well. I was super anxious. I was so exhausted. I couldn't get out of bed. There was not enough sleep in the world to make me feel well rested. And I just felt like I had to do something. And like the first part of that was identifying, oh, this is what burnout is. And then trying to get myself out of the hole of burnout that I was feeling. And I did a lot of different things to overcome it, including going to therapy and leaning on my support systems. But ultimately, one of the things I did was go enroll in health coaching school, which I did really just to hold myself accountable to these lifestyle changes that I knew I needed to make to keep myself healthy and manage the stress that I was dealing with. I didn't really go into it to become a coach, but halfway through the coaching program, I realized how needed this is in our world, especially as women. We are so good at giving to others and taking care of those around us, but not always great at taking care of ourselves. And so I just felt this real pull to want to support the people in my life to help them manage their health and wellness in a different way. That's how I became a health coach. I didn't intend to, but a positive that came out of the pandemic for sure.
That's great. And I think that happens a lot where, we end up on this path and we're like, this isn't where I thought I'd be, but it's working out well. You mentioned recognizing what burnout is, and you mentioned stress as well. I guess just for our listeners and even for myself, what does burnout look like, and maybe how is that different from just like the everyday of being stressed?
Burnout comes in lots of different forms. So I talk to a lot of people and symptoms can vary based on the person. A lot of it is just really feeling disconnected from the joy in your life, the things that you love to do, like you just no longer really feel desire to do them, in addition to just feeling completely exhausted and just kind of spent. And then I also feel like there's this level of just overwhelm, like any little thing can tip you over the edge. I remember during this period of burnout, my daughter lost her water bottle, which is not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. But I feel like in that moment when I found out, it just felt like, oh my gosh, the world is collapsing. And that's not a normal reaction. So day-to-day stressors, you can feel overwhelmed and you can feel just like you're going to explode to an extent, but you can recover from it quickly. But this is just like a building upon that for weeks, months, years to this point where you're just not really functioning anymore.
That's very helpful. And obviously, most people have everyday stresses. That's very different than what you're describing. You're in a unique situation because an occupational therapist and also a coach. I guess one of the things that I know you talk a little bit about is why it's important to understand kind of the science of what's going on, especially in women before trying to fix the burnout. So can you talk about the importance of that and understanding it?
I feel like so often we get like tips and tricks from people like, oh, try meditation, get more sleep. And all of these are great things to do. But if we don't really understand why it's helping our system and what's going on internally, it can be hard to put the pieces together as far as what you need individually, since we're all different. Our bodies work a little bit differently. I think once somebody has an understanding of what's happening internally with the brain and the body and why these tools work to help us heal from it and prevent burnout, it's really empowering, and it can help us go from, okay, I know I need to do these things that will make me feel better, to, oh, now I'm going to actually do it because I understand why it's so important. It kind of bridges that gap between, yeah, this would be great to do, to like, oh, yeah, now I understand the necessity of this.
I think as women, we tend to push it to the side as long as possible. So it's great to understand why it's important to take care of yourself. I'm sure a question you get very often is, what strategies would you recommend, especially because I know we have a number of working moms who are listening to this. When you start to feel that burnout, what would you recommend that a working mom should be doing?
Number one is getting support. It is really hard to heal yourself from burnout on your own. You're already beyond your capacity, your functional capacity, and you need some external support in order to heal from it. So whether that's therapy or having family come in and help you, or outsourcing things on your plate, or taking time off from work, a leave of absence, whatever it is that fits what you feel you're needing, just having that support so you can heal. And then the other really key component is our nervous system. We have the fight or flight side, the sympathetic nervous system, or we have the rest and digest side, the parasympathetic nervous system. And in our modern world, you mentioned this before, we are just inundated by stress everywhere we turn. Just watch the news, look at your email, the traffic you're sitting on the way to work, right? The brain is identifying all of these as stressors and activating our stress response. So all day long, that response is getting turned on over and over. And it's our job to tell the brain that we're safe again and we can turn it off. And there are lots of quick ways to do that. You don't need to set aside an hour for meditation and yoga every day, although that would be amazing. We don't have always the time or capacity for that. So some of my favorite tricks are doing 1 minute of deep breathing. And you could do that in the car, at a stoplight, or right before bed. Another great way to turn off the stress response is movement. So going for a walk for a couple minutes, or even just stretching on the floor before you get into bed at the end of the day. And one of my other all-time favorites is a 20-second hug. So there was this research study called the Warm Partner Contact Study, where they had people hug for 20 seconds, and it needs to be somebody you feel love and trust. In those 20 seconds, stress hormones drop, blood pressure reduces, heart rate reduces, and it's amazing. Like, my husband will count it out for me, and around like 10, 12 seconds, I can feel my body relax. So we don't need a lot of time in our day. We just need a couple intentional minutes to tell our brain we're safe and turn off that stress response. And when we do that consistently, it's going to make a huge impact on how our nervous system functions, and it's going to prevent that burnout from happening.
I think that's so great and such a great reminder, because I think one of the stresses of even trying to handle your stresses and burnout is I don't have enough time to be adding one more thing. So that's just so helpful. Even some of the suggestions, which is even a 30 seconds or a minute, can make a big difference of just being intentional. I think that's very interesting and definitely going to help myself, even as a working mom, to think through some of these and be more intentional sometimes when the day gets crazy. Really appreciate you joining us, Katie. And I know that some of our listeners will definitely be looking you up and trying to get some more tips as they battle through the working mom and busyness and stresses of the world right now.
So I'm happy to help anybody. It's so important, all the work that we do, and I'm here to support my fellow working moms. I know it's a challenge, and I'm happy to give whatever tips and tricks I can to help.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Women's Wealth, The Middle Way. Make sure to subscribe to us and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast app. Join us for new episodes every other Wednesday. See you in 2 weeks.